everyone, Lexie here, and welcome to FuturePlay. Today I have an absolutely special guest for you, one and only Bruno Senna.
Hey Lexie, how's it going?
Hi, everything's great. So thank you very much for taking some time to speak with us for this interview. Much appreciated. And yeah, let's talk about some flying cars.
Yeah, for sure. It's a pretty cool subject, isn't it?
Yeah, right? So how did you get into it?
Well, obviously I'm a complete nerd, as you've come to know
Yes,
since we've
yes.
seen each other a few times. I've always been into cars since I was a very young kid, and computers and drones and everything. And I saw Airspeeder on Instagram a few times before I got introduced to Steve, our communications extreme. And it's been, when we spoke about it and he told me about the project, I was like, oh my God, this is like everything I want, because it's racing, which I love. It's also some really cool tech and, innovations and cool ideas. So when he told me about it, I was like, oh, maybe I can help, path the way, make something that it's a bit different from motor racing with my experience, but not with like all the downsides of motor racing, but also with all the fun stuff that I enjoy. So yeah, that's how I got involved, and I've been loving it ever since.
Yeah, but you also fly FPV drones, so we have a similar background in that. How did you get into this one?
Well, that's quite a funny one. So I saw this video of these French guys flying through the forest, right? To like, I think it's like 2013 or 2014 or something like this, right? And it's like, oh my God, this is like Star Wars, like the little drones flying to the trees with the LEDs. I was like, and I'm a crazy Star Wars fan as well. So all these things came together, and I was like, I must do this. And I started like with like a TBS drone that was like a PCB frame. So every time you thought about crashing, it just exploded into a million pieces.
It was awful. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I mean, it was a hex. So I started with the hex, and then I started moving on to carbon frames, which gave me more confidence of crashing, without exploding every single time. But throughout this, it was always a pleasure for me. As much as like fixing the quad was not so much fun in the beginning, it kind of like gave me some really good insight of what it's made of, and actually it's become a really fun part for me. I enjoy building the quads, I enjoy flying them, of course, and now it's a whole like hobby, so it's really fun.
You enjoy building them. Okay, can I give you mine to build?
Yeah, no worries.
Next time I'm totally going with parts and being like, Bruno, just make those, please.
Yep, sounds good to me.
I'm happy right now. So considering all of this, like, I think the flying car as it is right now with Airspeeder is kind of connected with FPV stuff. How do you feel it is connected? Did it help you with, flying the big thing, or do you think it's not really even close?
I mean, it's always a learning curve when you're flying something new. Even when you're flying different FPV drones, they all sort of feel different, so you have to get used to. In this case, it's like a big difference. The Speeder is a massive aircraft.
Yeah.
You have to sort of, it's a bit like flying a big airplane. I flew a simulator of a A319 once, and it's the same thing. Sort of like if you fly a light aircraft, it's responsive. It sort of like reacts to stuff that's going on. The Speeder is like, we have to think a few seconds ahead to plan and come around the corners and make everything happen as you expect it to. And every time you fly it, you become better at it. So going to the FPV feed of the Speeder the first time was a real challenge, because I had only been flying it line of sight ever since, and it was like, oh, it's quite tough. The feel of speed is very different, and how it sort of reacts to wind and everything. But it was mega. I loved it, and the only issue is that the battery life was too short, so I wanted to fly longer. But it's part of the challenge and the development.
How did you like the virtual reality gates because this is way different than what we have in FPV. And the first times we have been using it, it was still glitchy. But you had the first experience with something that was already smooth and nice. What are your thoughts about this? Do you think it can be used for different things than just racing, like virtual reality roads in the future, or things like that?
Yeah, I think the VR gates are quite interesting because it gives another opportunity for you to be creative on the creation of circuits. Takes away some of the risk. I think if we're flying the speeders through real gates, I think there will be much more collisions than the virtual gates. So it's as you said, when I flew it, it was mostly working, and it was quite a smooth experience. Not quite as smooth yet as we had in the simulator, where everything was really stable and very clearly defined and everything. But it's a work in progress, and I think once they are able to insert more sort of like details to it and make everything a bit more clear as to everything is, I think it's going to be quite cool. And I think in the real world, where in cars everything is kind of defined by where you're driving on. But if you're driving like on a big car park, and if you're doing like courses for people, that could be actually quite a good thing, because you remove the risk of collisions, but you give people the path to drive on. And so there's a good use to those virtual gates, and I think this is quite pioneering stuff.
Yeah, and how would you compare the airspeeder stuff to Formula One? I mean, probably it's not really comparable, but I need to ask.
I mean, it's a different perspective, right? I mean, racing is racing. You can be racing a cardboard box with wheels, or you can be racing a Formula One car. You can be racing the speeder. Racing is racing. So you're always trying to go faster than the other guy, and you're just trying to win. But the whole approach is different. You have similarities. You have like the formats where you have to qualify and then you start and so on. But it's a whole different mind game when you have like another dimension to fly on. I think in some ways it's a bit more like the racing in the 80s, where you have to conserve your battery a little bit. So in that case, you had to save your brakes and your fuel. Yeah. So you kind of having to, you're not just flying flat out. There's a few considerations around the limitations of the current tech that sort of like make you fly a little bit more conservatively to finish the race and to battle without crashing out. So in some ways it's like the beginning of the history of F1, and the path forward is quite exciting, I think.
Yeah, that's true. I know that you will totally get into one once we can eventually. But
there's some controversy there, because my wife might be against it, but just no, I won't let anyone film me doing it.
I won't let anyone, even my wife. Okay. We got it. It's on the video. It's on YouTube, so it's true now. But are you preparing yourself in any way? Are you having any special training? Are you continuing your Formula One training? We have been spending some time in a hotel, so I saw you doing the neck training and other types of things. Are you preparing yourself in any special way for the airspeeder stuff?
Yeah, I'm training. Restarting training as like F1 level of training. Of course, I have no experience flying 3D objects with the G-force. So we flew we were passengers in the jet trainer, and obviously that was quite an experience in terms of how the G-force feels. It's totally different to cars. I think that would be more like what the speeder would be like. Probably. So anyway, I'm training the muscles that I know that I use. I mean, there's some benefits to being fit in general, but yeah, I think there'll be always a surprise as to what we're gonna experience once we get to fly the real thing, because it's gonna be quite interesting, I think, especially with all the freedom of movement on the axis. I think it's gonna be quite interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think is a timeline for that? When will we be able to get in?
I mean, I think flying something will be not so far, maybe like a couple of years, maybe flying something, but flying the speeder with like top performance, where the limitation factor is the human flying it rather than the machine. I think we're a few years out. I think there's still some breakthroughs needed on the battery technology for the performance of the
Yeah.
speeder to be really strong, like powertrain stuff. But hopefully within 5 years we'll have some really crazy aircraft that we can do some crazy stuff around all these clear skies that instead
Yeah.
of like taking traffic on the road, you can just do some crazy stuff on the skies.
Oh yes, please. Just the traffic. Jeez. Do you think we will be still young enough to get in?
Well, I don't know.
Well,
I mean, you will be, but I won't be. I'm already 40, so clearly not young enough. But probably the younger ones will enjoy it more than us.
that's true. That's true. Which is sad. I'm kind of having a plan that worst case scenario, I will be just training people to do it. I can be a coach. That's fine. If you guys have fun there and we win, that's fine. But I'm kind of like, I still want to stay in the loop.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I didn't think about that. Always come to the competition side first, but good idea, Lexi. You might have some competition there.
Oh no, don't take it away. Wait, let's meet up in the middle and just set it up together, huh?
Okay, that works.
Okay, that works. Good. So, what do you think is the future of Machina Sports? So, we have flying cars now, we have drone racing, we have some robot wars, all types of other things. Do you think it's going to take over the normal sports?
I mean, I love it. I'm all about it. I watch BattleBots and all that stuff. I think it's fantastic, like how technology enables us to do stuff that was not possible before, right?
Yeah.
And it's always been about that, right? It's always been about pushing the boundaries of tech and coming up with new sports. And I think really the dimension that we haven't been able to break yet is the sort of like air races, because we've been always limited by safety and technology. So I think air racing could be a real sort of like hit with people because it's so interesting, especially if people are able to participate on the virtual reality side of it, where you can see what the pilots are seeing, even if it's not from
Yes.
the onboard camera thing. If it's just like, if you're looking at something and you can see like the gates and whatever terrain
Yeah. They
that's
could
been
make an
flown.
app in which you get your phone app and then you see the gates. That would be actually pretty
Yeah,
cool if they did something like
yeah,
that for like events. Because I think like Formula One has this one problem that when you are there, it's hard to understand what's going on because you don't have the live commentary in a lot of places. You just sit there and you're like, okay, what's going on now? Like, I have no
yeah.
idea. So, yeah, I think generally we have a chance of making something that's really easy to understand for everyone and is like tech, full of tech. Like, you set up your account, you get the ticket, and then you get an app, and then you can see the track, which also has like all the information. You have the live commentary going on, just like in TV, but on your headphones or something like this. And it would be like super big events. Cannot wait for that, by the way. Just my
For
wild
sure.
imagination.
I mean, look, now there's so many of these AR glasses that are coming out now, which have, good resolutions. You don't even need your phone. If you put this thing on, it knows where it is. You can just watch it with your own eyes, but you can
Can
still
you
gaze through
imagine
it.
a
So,
crowd in those glasses? Everyone's just
yeah,
wearing them.
yeah,
That would look
yeah,
so
yeah.
funny. Oh my gosh.
But it takes it to a new dimension. You can see stuff that's not there in a really high quality. You're still looking
Mm.
at the vehicle rather than just looking at through your phone. So there's so many things that we are not even able to think of yet. In 5 years there'll be some really cool stuff.
Yeah, probably. Do you think Machina Sports in general will kind of get more tech pushed into people? Because, like sometimes when I'm telling people that we're flying cars, everyone's like, you what? So do you think it's gonna like speed up a lot of those things? Because when you speak about drone racing or flying cars or robot wars, a lot of people don't know about it yet. How
Yeah,
do
I
we
think
push through?
honestly, I mean, it's realistically, you need like a wide base of people watching it so that it becomes bigger and bigger, right? So, I
Mm.
mean, Robot Wars and And these things are only on YouTube, on some niche channels, because it's a small thing. Like
It's a small thing. We need to make it
it's a
big.
geek. I know it's a geek thing. I love it. You know, I don't miss it. I watch NHRL. I watch all this stuff. And this is the same with us. I mean, Formula E is a type of motor racing that's been growing steadily. These things take time, you know, unless it goes viral. And I think air races particularly have a real
Does make go viral.
yeah, they if something that's really cool as a format of racing happens, I'm sure it goes viral very quickly, and young people, they catch on, they love it, and that's how it is for you young people. I'm old, so
We're just like 10 years apart.
10 years is a lifetime.
Oh my gosh, dude. No. Okay, so I won't keep you too long, but I want to know if you have any tips for people who would like to in the future get into flying car racing. What would you tell them to do or start doing right now?
I think, well, honestly, the best way is always in simulators. It's a privilege that people like me didn't have when I started racing. We always had to do it or, you know, just get on the racetrack and try it. But now there is like a few different options for simulators. I think even if you just play with the flight simulator, FPV simulators, like if you learn how to fly FPV, it already helps a lot. There's
like drone racing path. You start drone racing and then you just move towards XR series, which is remote, and then flying cars.
Yeah, I think that's the natural path. We know that Celeros Game is trying to create a path as well, so that people can play that game, which, you know, at the moment is obviously not a simulation of the speeder, but it's like it's a way for you to learn to flying cars through gates, which is, you know,
it's
a bit different, but it's fun, and it's like something that can engage you, because sometimes flying just a simulator like an FPV simulator can be quite boring, fly on your own. So having a competition can be quite fun as well. You know, it must be something that you enjoy. So you take the lessons and then you can apply to different skills. So for me, I think anytime you can give to flying in a sim, since there's no option to fly the real thing just yet, will prepare you for what's coming. And I think sooner than later, we'll be having some real online competitions with like some flying cars online, and then hopefully the real thing will be the next thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Would you propose to people to do some physical training, mental training, anything else that helped you personally in your career in Formula One and probably would translate well to flying cars?
Look, physically for sure. I mean, I to be fair, I recommend physical training for everybody, not only who wants to be athletes, because in the end of the day, it's better for you. And if you go from zero to becoming an athlete, it's quite difficult. But if you come from 50%, 60%, it's much easier.
Yeah, especially if you already have a habit. So it's going to be easier just to step it up a little bit. Well, if you don't train at all and you are just on the simulator, and then you get a chance of getting into the aircraft and they tell you like, this is your training, you just die.
Exactly. So if you go, yeah, for sure. I mean, sometimes it can be the case of preparation, right? So if you're not fit enough to fly it, you can be extremely talented, but when you get into the real thing, you have no physical ability to fly it, and then you lose this opportunity. That is it's a massive shame, right? So honestly, fitness training is a basic thing for anybody, no matter if you want to be a pilot or an athlete. It's just something for you to be good with yourself. Mentally, it's quite tough because without participating in races, it's hard to prepare mentally for it. You know,
because it is really stressful, and people react differently on this really certain type of stress. I'm usually saying to people to train cardio, one, because then when your heart starts going really fast, your body reacts differently. It's not getting into shock of, oh, we haven't felt this since 10 years. But also like mental training, like meditation, some breathing techniques, but that's me. Do you do the same thing, or?
I'm used to adrenaline dumping, so I'm kind of like having massive spikes in my heart rate is just part of the day, so it's okay. But you know, Yeah, I quite enjoy it actually. But to be fair, I think yeah, if you're able to control your mind, so you know,
Mm.
yoga is a great way to control your breath and your mind. All these things they really help with like concentration and focus. And you know, 50% of racing and competition is to be able to control your mind and just do your best.
Yeah.
So yeah, that works. I think there's no substitute to actually doing it. So if you're able to get into races, you know, simulators, whatever races you can get into, it
Mm.
prepares you for something that's, you know, that's coming when it's a real thing. But again, mind control is a massive tool for you in your life as well. So it's a bit like the same thing as training physically. It's training the mind.
Okay. Any last words? Something you want to say to people watching?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think this is extremely exciting. I'm obviously biased because I love the whole thing,
We're
the
all
whole
biased.
concept. Yeah, but you know, it's an interesting thing to do, and I think watch the space, because I don't think we're the only ones that are sort of like trying to create this sport. I think there'll be a lot of different people trying to come up with an idea, and one way or another, this will become a real thing. But airspeed is a few steps ahead, and we'll try to keep
That's
pushing it so
true
that
in
we
many
can,
ways. Yes.
yeah, so that we can, you know, keep giving entertainment and, yeah, maybe getting to it or not. But yeah, it's a real cool thing, and for kids, it's an amazing thing because it brings them into science. Because the whole thing is not like something you're used to. It's so new that will bring a whole different dimension to all the young ones to get interested into something that's quite clever.
But that's true. Actually, my nephew, he's 10. When I was playing the Celeros Power tournament, he took over and played Celeros as well. And since then, he has actually built his first FPV drone. A 10-year-old with a soldering iron. That's great.
Nice, nice.
So
Yeah,
this actually works, yeah.
my nephews, they are when we were I was a few weeks ago flying my FPV drones, and they are completely crazy about it. They're too young. They're only still 4 or 5, so they're not able to
Oh,
fly it. But the
soon.
young one, the youngest one, the 4-year-old one, I got him into my simulator with my controller, and he was actually pretty good. He had like the movements and the
Hmm.
you know, the stick movements and everything. So I think he might be one. So I'm building him a little like FPV setup, a bit simpler, so he can fly at home and play
Like a
with it
tiny
and
whoop
hope
stuff?
tiny whoop stuff. Yeah. So we're trying to give him with FPV as well, so he can learn to fly at home. And maybe we'll have a new FPV pilot, and who knows if he'll be a racer in one of those flying car things.
Yeah, that would be a legacy. Huh?
Yeah, right.
That's a good one. Okay, thank you very much for this interview. I really enjoyed it,
Thank
and
you.
thanks for sharing your insights. And thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to leave us a like, follow Bruno on his Instagram. I'm going to leave all of the links down below. And we're going to see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye bye.